Good evening. This is the City of Twinsburg Planning Commission meeting for Monday, March 15th, 2021. Roll call.
Mr. Shipley?
Here.
Mr. Metropolis?
Here.
Mr. Kleinman? Mr. Cohen?
Present.
Mr. Shebeck?
Present.
Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In an effort to maximize social distancing measures, the usual Planning Commission agenda has been modified to combine the work session with the regular meeting. First item on the regular meeting agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February 22nd, 2021 meeting. Any corrections or changes? Seeing none, the minutes will be accepted as submitted. Second item is request for final site plan approval, 2396 Edison Boulevard for LJ Star, the applicant. Name and address and an overview of what you're looking for this evening, please.
My name is William Selly. I'm with the Albert Higley Company, and I'm here today to represent DG Star Holdings, parent company of LJ Star on Edison Boulevard. And I'm here today to get planning commission approval, or to ask for planning commission approval to build an addition onto an existing building in the city. So we're looking to put on 7,600 square foot addition to an existing property. When the original building was put together in 1999, they had planned for this addition. They had built the building pad, had left the space and the site in preparation for this expansion.
All right, anything else? Lynn, I noticed there was a couple things in the report. Did the city engineer finish her review, or do we need a condition, final approval from the city engineer?
Revisions were submitted on that date stamped March 10th
Right.
submittal, and I believe those took care of engineering questions and concerns. There's no additional sort of stormwater control requirement with this project because of the existing pond. I'm not sure if, I think elevations were submitted for A or B, but I never got a height of the building.
Yeah, the addition will be 21 foot 4 inches tall.
Okay.
All right, well, that will be part of their review also.
And so that's in compliance with the zoning standards for the district. The landscaping is in compliance based on the plant material that's already on that site. There was a question about lighting at the rear doors. I'm not sure if that was indicated on the revised site plan.
I don't think it's on the site plan, but it is on the building drawings that we submitted for the architectural review board. There's lights above the doors, and then there's some wall packs around the perimeter of the building exterior.
All right, so
Yeah.
probably no need for any conditions then if everyone's on board.
I agree.
All right, Steve, comments or questions?
I'm good.
Thank you. Pete?
We received something from the fire department. And he has 10 items that he raised in his email. Have those been addressed?
So those are all relative to the building and construction drawings. Early on in the review process of this site plan, the fire department was concerned with the slope associated with the pond and the proximity of the building addition to that slope. Both of those site features limiting access to the front of the building. So the resolution of that were changes to the actual building or requirements to the actual building to allow for access through a man door on the side.
So all those items will be handled during the plan review with the building department.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Craig?
I have no questions.
Scott? Anything on this?
Nothing from me, thank you.
All right, then I would like to make the following motion. Upon reliance upon representations made by the applicant and their representatives, along with the submitted site plans for the building addition and parking expansion for LJ Star 2396 Edison Drive, permanent parcel number 64-0555, date stamped received March 10, 2021. I move for final site plan approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
All together now? Second by Craig. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Cohen?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley?
Approved.
Mr. Metropolis?
Yes.
Mr. Kleiman?
Yes.
Mr. Shebeck?
Yes.
Site plan approval 5-0. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for your time.
The next item is the final site plan 2495 East Aurora Road for Sheetz. The applicant could identify name, address, and an overview of what you're looking for this evening, please.
Sure. My name is Ryan Falco. I am the engineering permit project manager for Sheetz. My address is 4907 Franklin Boulevard, Cleveland, Ohio 44102. And I'm joined here today with our project manager for GPD Group, Josh Lyons. It's 520 South Main Street, Suite 2531, Akron, Ohio 44311. And just a general oversight of the project. Sheetz is looking to do a significant expansion in the Northeast Ohio market. And as part of that, we're going back and looking at all of our older stores and looking at opportunities to either remodel or rebuild stores to bring them up to the same standards of material and look and feel of the new stores that we're building in the area. This particular site, we did decide to move forward with a rebuild of the site. And, you know, although I use the term rebuild, the same general intent of the layout of the site, access points off of Aurora Road and Twin Hills Parkway, both remain the same. The building itself is in generally the same location, as well as the fuel island canopy. The building itself will be a larger building than the building that's there. And the fuel island canopy itself will remain in generally the same location, but it'll be reduced from 8 fuel island pumps to 5 pumps. In general, we do have a reduction in impervious area over the site, which is always an improvement. We've relocated the trash enclosure kind of further back into the back corner of the site. And as an additional amenity, we are proposing 7 Tesla Supercharger stations in the back of the site. We team up with Tesla as well as 2 other providers for EV charging. So we've been coordinating with Tesla on this project as well. A majority of the infrastructure relating to stormwater and water quality will remain in the ground. It'll be inspected to make sure that it's still operating correctly. the two monument signs located at each of the entrances will be replaced. Essentially in kind, they'll look generally the same. They'll still meet code as far as overall height and square footage. And we will be replacing all of the lights and bringing them up to the LED standards for the whole site. So that's kind of a general oversight. Happy to answer any questions about the project.
Thank you. The Tulsa Superchargers, are we putting in only to be able to charge those vehicles, or will the stations also be adaptable to handle non-Tesla cars?
Sure. So I believe that I'm not sure if there's adapters for some Tesla, to go, back and forth. I think that primarily they are used by Tesla vehicles for this site. I do know that we have above, the minimum required parking for the site. So, not including these spaces, I think we still meet code for that. Another thing to note is only 3 or 4 of the 7 are going to be signed to be like Tesla only parking. The other 3 or 4 spaces will be noted as general parking, so anybody can use those spaces if that's what's available.
All right. I had submitted a list of questions that I got responses for regarding where the drive-through windows were, how stacking worked on that. So I appreciate the responses to that. The only question that I had in there, Lynn, that I did not see a response to, and this is more of just a legality, so we have it on record to be sure, that all of the variances that were previously provided carry over to this site, even though it's a redo, they're demoing everything out and rebuilding it. It is the same owner, so I'm going to assume that it carries through, but I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I can confirm that. They will carry through. The variances that are associated with the driveway width will remain in place, and the driveway width will remain the same. The setbacks that are related to the curbing and the extent of the parking facilities, those will remain in place, and those setbacks will also remain the same. So those components that have received the variance relief for the initial project, they carry over and they will absolutely remain the same.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Steve, comments or questions?
Yes, first of all, I'm glad to see that you guys are reinvesting in the community and updating. It's always nice to see that happen. So with the charging stations, you said they're the supercharging stations, so those are the 40 volt stations?
Correct.
Okay, so just want to make sure that from a safety standpoint, there's disconnects and it's clearly marked. How the disconnect powers are for those stations.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the site plan, there's a couple boxes behind the parking there. One is a switch gear that has the master disconnects in there, and then they actually pull their own service. So it's a completely separate service, separate transformer, separate from the store. So if that ever has to go down, we have, to be operated on or whatever, it doesn't have to shut down the store or anything like that, and then vice versa.
And I do commend you for where it's located. I think that's perfect. Back, it's kind of out of the way. It's a convenience because they're supercharging stations. They charge a lot faster, but they run at a higher voltage. And knock on wood, we haven't seen any issues yet, but you never know when things can happen. The other question I had is employee parking. I think was typically in the back of the store as it currently exists, and we've reduced some spaces back there. So what are you doing with employee parking?
Sure. So I guess looking at this, so the way that the site plan is orientated, the vestibule, which would be the set of double doors that if you're looking on the plan, it's the bottom left corner. that's sort of the primary customer entrance that we try and focus people towards.
Okay.
So we typically just ask employees to park as far as possible away from that. So it'll be likely that they're asked to park out on the far right side of the site,
Okay.
on the other side of the fuel line.
So you're basically flipping this.
Yep.
Yeah, because it is kind of congested now with the main entrance right being right across
Yeah.
the homes.
Yeah.
I stopped there, so I
Okay.
understand. So that wasn't, I thought it was kind of the thing, but I wanted to make sure it was on the record, and I like that layout. The only other real question I had is, I know occasionally we see some semis in there. How are you going to handle those?
I mean, you know, we do offer auto diesel, especially with it being so close to the interstate. And then, you know, primarily a site like this, you know, we would expect to see box trucks like FedEx and UPS and everything. And that's another reason why we provide the oversized drive aisles, is so that, you know, we can still protect our customers that are circulating around the site and passenger vehicles, in the, you know, the off chance that a box truck is circulating around the site. We do have semis that deliver product to our store, so those might be the semis that you're seeing, or,
Yeah, those are usually shorter trailers. They're not the 52-footer or the 48-footers.
okay. Yeah, so, I mean, we take into account, our engineers do, they use a computer program called AutoTurn, where they, you know, circulate around the site to make sure they're not hitting any of the curbs, or anything else like that. So, you know, we do take that into account, but, you know, we certainly don't, you know, unless the municipality, you know, has an ordinance that, or can't go up a residential street or something like that, we typically don't do anything to prevent it.
It's kind of a unique area.
Yeah.
So where are your service deliveries going to be? In where the current front of the store is now?
No, so they'll pull off of, you know, the entrance off of Twin Hills Parkway.
Okay.
And they'll just pull up so that they're almost directly north of the site, up against that curb line.
Okay.
So that way, you know, the drive-through itself can still be maintained.
Okay.
And then, you know, that on that side of the store there, it's one-way traffic. So we don't have to worry about cars coming the other way.
Okay. I'm just worried about congestion and everything. I think this will actually make for a better site
Yeah.
flow than what we currently have.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
David?
What kind of signage are you going to have to direct people to the superchargers?
So the Tesla vehicles themselves are actually have that in the GPS of their car. So they're pinpointed in there. They don't, there doesn't need to be signed, like the vehicle kind of just directs them to that point.
And you probably know about all the news of General Motors and everybody else going by 2030, 2035. What plans do you guys have to be able to service and charge those vehicles? Are you going to be additional non-Tesla charging stations? Is that the
Yeah,
plan?
so the other two companies that we partner with are EVgo and Electrify America, and they install charging systems that GM and all of them. So it just kind of, you know, they map out their target areas, and we give them a list of stores, and whatever each one of them kind of, you know, it fits what they're looking for. So EVgo might have already selected a site on the other side of the highway in Twinsburg, and you know, to the point made earlier, they charge so quickly that they don't need a ton of them out there. So and most of the people that are local that have those cars are charging at home. So it's really the long distance, you know, travelers that need them. So but yeah, we do partner with two other companies that are more of the you know, the rest of the manufacturers.
Any questions I have?
Thank you. Pete?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a pretty exciting site improvement, and I have no problem with what's been presented.
All right, thank you. Craig?
Yeah, I just would, I guess the Can you explain the ponds? Those aren't existing, right? And are they for water retention? Or?
Yeah, so there's two components to the stormwater infrastructure at this site that are both existing. There's bioretention areas, which are just small depressions that water runs off into. There's curb cuts along the south curb line there, along the east curb line. There's one in the back corner. Basically, the water, the first, it starts raining, the first little bit of water starts to pond in that, and then there's overflow risers. And there's actually, on the north side of the canopy, there's two 48-inch underground storm pipes that act as the detention system. But that water that's left in below that riser actually infiltrates through a bioretention media to help clean it, and then it's picked up by under drains that tie it back into it. So all of that is already existing, and we're actually, the bioretention soil media, we're proposing to tear it out and just replace it in kind to just match the original design, because that stuff over time, starts to settle and it doesn't, function the way that it was originally intended to. So, but we're not, overall, we're not changing the design intent of anything.
Are the tanks staying the same, or are you replacing those?
We are replacing the tanks. They'll be replaced with fiberglass tanks, which have just been shown to hold up better over time. And the orientation that they set them in the ground now allows them to be more efficient with the amount of fuel that they can fit in a certain area. So yeah.
And the last question, the curb line on the north side, I guess it's not straight, it's just a bunch of little.
Yeah.
Is that just to accommodate what's existing now that's there, the
Yeah,
shrubbery, or?
Yeah, that's the exact same curb line that's existing today. The reason that it bumps out on the north side of the canopy is to allow for vehicles to have a larger radius around the canopy, and then it starts to come in a little bit. But the grade difference between the Sheetz and the hotel that's on the north side there, the difference in grade starts to increase the further west you go. So we just needed more green space to make up that difference, and that's why the curb line kind of pushes in a little.
That's why it keeps
Yeah.
stepping in.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have, thank you.
Scott, anything on this?
No, I guess I would echo Mr. Shebeck's comment. We appreciate the investment in the community, and excited for the charging stations. I know that's what he thinks he's going to get over there one of these days, so. As soon as I get a raise, I
Yeah.
all I have. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask one more question, Mark?
Yeah.
All right. What's the downtime period when you guys are going to start construction, and then we'll be back up and running?
Sure. So I can tell you approximately right now, I believe that as long as we can get through all the city approvals on engineering, the plan is mid-July, we would shut down the store and start demo. And it's about a 20-week construction project. So December will be open around mid-December.
And that's including fueling, correct? So the whole thing would be shut down for about 4 or 5 months?
I'd say 5 months.
You had mentioned the replacement of the tanks, the fuel tanks. Has there been any testing done to make sure we don't need any soil remediation, that there's been no prior issues?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have an entire environmental team that does, we do all of our phase 1 and phase 2 testing in-house, just because of the liability that goes along with it. They do their due diligence long in advance of me being at a meeting like this. So to my knowledge, there's no concerns, and they go through all the protocols that they need to have those replaced properly.
Thank you. Lynn, so a few things that still need review and approval, I believe, based on the report the litter control program for the bioretention facilities. I know that there was information submitted that still needs final approval,
There was a letter submitted outlining what the plan moving forward would be,
right?
and it included names, and so
But
we have their names, and we
Yeah.
know how to contact them.
But
So
the-
we are, that sounds good, so as submitted is acceptable.
So no need to have that as a condition, okay?
If you notice, that was in the original conditional use permit for
Yeah.
that litter plan, and it had been addressed early on, that it's a perpetual issue at that store.
Yeah.
And then it's just exacerbated by the fact that we have the bioretention facilities, and litter tends to get just chopped up when the grassy area gets mowed, and then that makes it even
All right.
a bigger issue.
No, I thought the response from Sheetz was a nice layout,
Yeah,
as long as it's implemented.
right.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to that, the gentleman, Larry, that submitted that is, he's a new regional store manager, and as of late October, and I know that the store manager is also newer in October, and, you know, we had a long conversation about it, and, you know, I can just tell you that I got the general sense that he realized that he didn't really believe that his employees were cleaning it as often as they said they were, and he is making it a point to, you know, to correct the issue, even if it means bringing in a third party, you know, cleaning service, as you mentioned in there, you know, every so often, just to make sure that it's addressed. So.
Approval of the stormwater management facilities long-term maintenance agreement.
That needs to be a condition. The applicant is aware of that. We've talked about time frame for those items.
All right.
And so on that note, if I could just interrupt for a moment, is there an aqua swirl type filtration system with that chamber?
There's two.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two on the site. And we should have all the records of the cleaning that we can provide, and, you know, that'll be part of the final, you know, revised operation and maintenance agreement that we.
So then what will happen are those facilities that are on the site, the bio swales, the underground chambers with the aqua swirl system, those will be noted in the long-term maintenance agreement, and that agreement will be signed off on by Amy Moore and the ownership, and then it's recorded at Summit County. And then there's an annual reporting for maintenance required.
All right. And then I believe the last item that I had on my list, that you still needed to approve the landscape plan.
I've received the email in regards to that. It sounds like our via along the north side of the property is just going to be 100% replaced.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
If you want to see something, or no need to make
No,
a
I'm
condition?
good with the, one-for-one replacement.
All right. Anything else on that we should be aware of here?
Nothing else.
All right, then I'd like to make the following motion. Upon reliance upon representations made by the applicant, along with the submitted site plans for the Sheetz demolition and rebuild, 2495 East Aurora Road, permanent parcel numbers 64-04603 and 64-04604, date stamped received February 24th, 2021, along with the follow-up support documentation received via email. I move for final site plan approval with the following condition. Approval of the stormwater management facilities long-term maintenance agreement by the city engineer. Second by Steve. Discussion?
What's the address of this? There's what, it's 2494 or 2495, I see it on.
2495, I see the report had 2494 on it, but all the documents say 2495.
Two here that say 94. 95 is the correct address?
Is that
Yes.
2495?
I think it's two, yeah.
Anything else on that? Roll call, please.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes?
Mr. Shebeck?
Yes.
Mr. Shipley,
Yes.
Mr. Metropolis,
Yes.
Mr. Kleinman.
Yes.
Site plan approval 5-0. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you.
On to the next item, communications and miscellaneous. Steve.
Just a question, a couple people have asked me, the staking of the right-of-way on 91 from Post Road to almost the center of town. I saw a surveying group out there, and they're staking the right-of-way for that area. Sir, I'm going to email Amy, and just ask her.
Right, I don't know what that is.
I know we had talked about, some improvement projects potentially, and I guess she may be looking at an engineering study to get funding. I know that we were talking about, she had mentioned doing between Post and McTerrian, curb and gutter, bike lanes, and a sidewalk on the.
It'd be nice if that's what that is, right?
Yeah,
I'll have to ask, I'll ask her.
so my neighbor's like, why are there stakes out here? I don't know stakes in my yard, it says right away, that's not right away. The other thing is I noticed Waterstone has less truck parking trailers.
Right.
And I know we were talking about a potential project going in there, however, from all that parking, there is a pretty decent amount of garbage that's on that site.
Okay,
And the fence is holding it all in now, but I'm
Yeah.
afraid if they start that project, and they start taking that fence out and everything.
and they do intend to start that project this spring, I
We
believe.
should ask them, I mean, I would like to ask them to clean that site up.
Okay.
From all their truck drivers just dropping their garbage.
Agree. Anything else?
And that was all I had, thank you.
David?
Well, since the Sheetz folks just left, what's the status on Circle K?
You're moving.
Let's see, I have not been following along on that, other than, obviously the car wash looks pretty complete. That project did include truck diesel.
In
You
the-
asked
in
that
the rear,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, so I would see that being the destination. You work with a tractor trailer rig, you'd be across the street. Yeah, I don't know what their time frame is, they were just chugging along, there haven't been any, in the office space we have back there that I share with building division, if there are problems in terms of inspections and whatever, that building would be involved with, I'm aware of it. And there hasn't been any issues that I've been hearing about.
What was their estimated timeframe to open?
I don't know if they gave us one, did they say 6 months?
Hopefully before mid-July.
Yeah, I know, right?
They
I know.
were aggressive, but there's still supply chain issues with COVID. And once you start digging up underground storage tanks, you find things, and I see a lot of dirt work going on
Yeah.
there, so they may have found some contaminated soils and whatnot, so it's hard to, my guess is they're gonna replace all the tanks.
Yeah,
So they may have found something and have to do some
right, that was
remediation.
not their intent on that Circle K site, at least not all the tanks,
Yeah.
so. Because, they haven't even started making the connection between Burger King and their site that I see. And that was a big component of that. So, yeah, not looking promising to be done by July, is it?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Down 2 stations. That's all I have.
Thank you. Pete? Craig?
And I was actually gonna ask what's going in at the BP station, because I wasn't privy to that earlier.
Right.
I know it's I figured there's another gas station to be able to car wash. Yeah, I know.
All right, thank you. Scott?
Just a question only has been asked me, we know the status of Tulum Mexican restaurant, or should we sell squares on what's going to be finished first, the gas station or the Mexican restaurant? Because I don't know that I've ever seen a
I'm
project
betting on
take that.
Mexican restaurants still, but, no, I don't know, I've seen more vehicles there working on the interior lately, so,
Yeah, and there's still plywood in the windows, so
Yeah.
So I can offer my unofficial opinion.
I'd love to hear it.
So as you're building, you're on a construction loan, and, you take draws as you go along, and once you complete, then the mortgage payments start. My guess is they're dragging their feet just because of COVID, and I mean, from a business standpoint, it makes sense.
Why would you open when you can't
Yeah, why would you
really
open if you're not gonna be able to get people
Yeah.
into it? So I
Yeah.
think they're purposely dragging their feet to wait to see what the future holds as far as lifting restrictions.
Let me tell you,
Because that's the way the bank's gonna work. As soon as you're done and you get occupancy, okay, here's your mortgage payments.
it hasn't made a difference for the basement. You see that parking lot in front of their spot, it's full every day.
I'm looking for the sushi place opening up.
I understand Sushi Inn is opening up next week.
Yeah, I mean, they're moving and grooving, I'm good with that.
Yeah, just as a note on that, I'm assuming they know that all the lights on their sign don't work.
They probably not.
Because I drove by there the other day and I saw like one letter lit up and
Yeah.
everything else.
Well, it's the basement, it's kind of dim.
No, it's the sushi place.
The
Oh,
sushi place.
All right, Lynn, what do we have on the horizon?
So we will have a meeting next month. Right now, I have just one item, a conditional use permit request by one of our residents. So I'm not sure if we'll have another project meet a deadline here or not.
A conditional use permit by one of our, something residentially?
Yes, we have a request for sort of a personal training type operation in a home basement. So we allow those types of home businesses by conditional use permit. We have a lot of home businesses in town without an official conditional use permit. And typically it's more of an office or a home office of convenience, obviously during the pandemic, requiring a conditional use permit wouldn't really be necessary or appropriate. But in this case, because of the nature of it,
So all the local residents will be notified, so
Absolutely.
we'll be having a public hearing here
we will,
for that.
yes.
Are they actually notified by mail, or is it only advertised in the bulletin and on the bulletin board here at City Hall?
Both, it is both,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, and then
Joining property owners have to be.
usually there's like so many 100 feet.
Right,
or
exactly.
something, they should be notified, that's why I wanted to make sure.
Mhm.
All right, anything else that you wanted to share with us this evening?
No, that is all.
All right, so then, being 7:36, we'll adjourn.